I asked, and you delivered. Good job, everybody. Hello friends and welcome in, I'm DasFood, and today, as promised, we are revisiting last video's topic of annoying things in Dead by Daylight, but with your answers instead of mine this time. Now, before I go further, I want to brag on y'all for two reasons. Firstly, I asked you for answers and my goodness, you responded. That video has under 7k views, but almost 300 comments. For a small channel like mine, that's a crazy number, especially on a video that was kind of so-so in terms of views. So thanks for that, y'all are very, very cool for doing that. Secondly, I'm glad to say that things were kept mostly peaceful in the comments. Talking about etiquette, game balance, and hot takes can lead to things getting pretty crazy, but most of y'all kept things cool. Most of y'all. There were some, like our friend here, who watched the video and walked away thinking that I said everything survivors do is toxic and nothing killers do is bad. That's weird, considering 5 out of the 10 points applied directly to killers, or at least 3 were directly to killers and 5 applied to killers, but my sneaking suspicion is that Christian did not actually watch the video. Credit where it's due, Kiwi Birdie did seem to watch the video, and they took great umbrage with me calling out people who DC when the game doesn't go their way. They wrote a lovely paragraph, but damn dude, that's a lot of words when you could have just said you got bad sportsmanship, but I digress. Like I said though, most people were really civil, and it's a real bummer that I can't show every comment on here because, I mean, I don't want to keep you here for like 10 hours. I did read all of them, yes, all of them, and I chose a few here that were insightful, funny, interesting, or just generally worthy of discussion. So lots of good ones got left on the cutting room floor, and I would encourage you to go read through all the comments on the other video, just so you can kind of get a feel for what people were thinking about the game. Another note to make is that while not everybody agreed with points from the original video, most people were super cool in how they discussed their disagreements. So 2 points in particular seem to rub people the wrong way. The first being the whole immersed / stealthier survivor thing. I got tons of comments on that one, and to my great surprise, it turns out a decent amount of people enjoy stealthing around the killer more than they actually enjoy directly looping the killer. I can't say I understand it, but clearly there's a whole playstyle that people enjoy partaking in that I had never even really considered. So hey, look, it's crazy what you learn even after all these years of playing the game, and it's actually kind of cool to see. The other sticking point was my talking about swapping P100 survivors at the last minute, you know, swapping from like a level 12 or a level 2 or whatever to a P100. And you know what? Fair point. Getting lobby dodged stinks, and I can see why a person would get creative if it means getting into a match sooner. Like I said in my original video, intent matters with swapping to a P100, and I can't imagine anybody has a problem with changing because you literally couldn't play the game otherwise. Now, getting into the video proper, one thing I appreciated was how some of you just straight up gave me lists as your opinions. That's an easily digestible way to take in your thoughts, and you're a G for doing that. The first list comes from Blekis, hope I got that right, and they had 5 points. Blekis7422 says, so here are a few things that annoy me. So we're gonna go through these and just kind of react to them. I know, look at that, I'm a react streamer now, but oh my goodness. Great. Number 1 was how inconsistent hits can be sometimes. Yeah, no, definitely. Especially on killers like Huntress, this gets to be a real problem, and I think it's even worse on Deathslinger. It can be very, very frustrating when you know you got the hit, but the game says, no you didn't. No you didn't get the hit. I think this one mostly affects the killer in a direct manner, but I can also see where you're a survivor and it looks like you were well through the window. You know, you have finished your vault animation and run 2 steps, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, actually you got hit. And it's like, no, I didn't. What? So yeah, very, very obnoxious. Probably never going to go away though, so not a lot we can do about that one. Number 2 was behavior adding band-aid perks to fix the game, or to the game that should just be part of the game. And obviously this is something they have a real track record of doing with things like Unbreakable and Decisive Strike. You know, oh, people talk about gen rushing too much, let's just give them Deadlock, let's just do that. And it is an issue because it means essentially you have to bring perks that are going to make certain aspects of the game less miserable, but it means you're not bringing more fun perks, right? So yeah, I definitely agree with that. Number 3 was no set for the bloody cosmetics, and this one I wasn't really sure what you meant. I didn't know if you mean that you can't just like equip all the bloodies in one click like you can most cosmetic sets, because if so, I don't know, it's a kind of minor thing. But if what you mean is that you can't put bloody on top of existing cosmetics, Yes, I completely agree. I think that should absolutely be a thing you can do because it's just a texture rework. So I would say go for it. And if I'm wrong about that, let me know, my artistic friends. If you're, if you're in the, if you're an artist of some kind and you can tell me, hey, actually, Food, you're wrong on that. It would take a lot more than just updating the textures. Then, I'm fine to admit I'm wrong, but it seems easy to me. It seems easy. Right, I say that about a lot of things, right? It's always, you watch professional athletes, it's like, look, it looks easy, but it's not. So maybe it's not easy, but yeah, I would like to see that. And then number 4 is the fact that weak killers get major nerfs that most of the time they don't deserve, while strong characters are untouched. This isn't necessarily true. I think there are a decent amount of weaker killers that have definitely gotten buffs over the years. I think that Wraith was buffed from being very bad to being very good. I think that Clown went from D tier to somewhere like high C, low B, probably high C. I think that even Pig is in a lot better place. Despite the nerf Pig meme, I think that there were some of her nerfs, not making it where she could guarantee head pops by standing in front of the box. Like, okay, that was a good change. Yeah, I don't know. I think that for the most part, that might be something that's more, it feels that way, but then you look at it and you realize that most killers, I'm not saying all, most of them are stronger than they used to be. So, I don't know. Maybe it's a power creep thing. Number 5, people on both sides who don't read the effects of perk add-ons and assume the other side is cheating. So this one we're going to get to later. Somebody else actually commented something very similar, and I want to tackle that one at a later point. But I do have thoughts on that. The second, and for this video, the last, even though there were quite a few others, list comes to us from Tyler Rassi, who says, number 1, watch me leave. This is going to be the people who just stand at the exit gate and they waste, what is it, like almost 2 minutes of your life because they just want you to watch them as they teabag at the gate. And someone will be like, oh, I just want to give them a free hit. It's like, okay, well, if that's why you're waiting at the gate, just go in and leave. They don't need that extra hit. Yeah, that one's very obnoxious. Entitlement, nobody likes entitlement. And that's one that it's kind of funny because both sides think the other side's very entitled and both sides are correct. So yeah, I mean, entitlement's never fun. Behavior incompetence and lack of basic understanding of their own game. This one's probably overstated a little bit. I think the behavior has done a pretty good job so far. He said the meme, guys. They've done all right at getting the game to a pretty good place, but they've definitely made some boneheaded decisions over the years. Nobody's denying that. Holding the game hostage is number 4. Yeah, definitely. If you hold the game hostage, you're kind of a crappy person. I don't know what you want me to tell you. That's just mean. Nerfs and Blight being the top 3 strongest forever, but now weaker killers keep getting nerfed. Okay, so apparently a lot of people think this is a thing. I just don't think that's necessarily true. Now, if your argument is that Nerfs and Blight have been untouched for too long, I agree. I talked about this kind of recently, that I think they both need a nerf. In that one video I did where I also mentioned Wesker, and everybody let me know that I was not a very intelligent person. Yeah, no, look, I completely agree they need a nerf, but I don't know that weaker killers are getting nerfed all the time. Again, to me, I think this is just one of those things that it feels that way, but maybe it's not actually that way. I don't know. Somebody should run the numbers on that. Some YouTuber should definitely make a video about that. And then Gen Kick Simulator / Chess Merchant. Yeah, look, Chess Merchant, always going to be an L. Nobody likes her, except for very few people, I guess. Some people are very passionately in favor of this character, and I can't understand. But yeah, she's cringe, she's stinky, I don't like her. But again, play who you want to play. Gen Kick Simulator, I'm assuming that's just holding a tight 3-gen and just kind of trying to whittle the survivors down. Not fun at all, not fun for either side. I would rather lose than win because I took 40 minutes to wear the survivors down. There were a few people who actually asked questions more so than giving outright answers, and my favorite of these was Derpsdoodle, who asked about face camping when the exit gates are open and also about taunting. So when it comes to face camping when the exit gates are open, I think that's fair. I think that's totally fine. I think that in-game, you want to secure that one kill, especially if it's been a tough game, which it probably has been if you're having to face camp at the end, because you think about it, if there's only one left, who are you going to face camp? If there's 2 left, I mean, ideally you're chasing the second one. If there's 3 or 4, it did not go very well for you. The game was not going so well. So yeah, secure that kill. I don't have a problem with that. I don't think many people have a problem with that, honestly. As far as taunting goes, I'm of 2 minds on that, so I don't necessarily love it because I don't do it myself, and I think it's such a little thing to be kind to people. You know, it's so easy to be kind, but at the same time, I understand the other argument that maybe you're a cracked looper and you're trying to get the killer to commit to you so your teammates can hammer out the remaining 3 gens or whatever. That's fine. I don't have a problem with it. Again, I think so much of it is what's the situation, what's the intent, and even if it is just getting a little cheeky, you just kind of want to let the killer know, like, hey, I'm better than you. It's not the end of the world. It's rude. I don't love it, but it's not the end of the world. And on that subject of taunting, one thing that came up very frequently was the concept of BM, or bad manners. Lots of people brought this up in, they brought this one up in various forms, and a good point I saw was where Twix the Hyena mentioned teabagging after a near escape. So the killer has you on the hook, the exit gates are open, your teammates make a daring save, they get you out of there, and then at the end you decide to teabag. And for me, this is another one where I'm going to be a bit of a fence sitter because personally, I think it's cringy because, I mean, you would have lost if not for your teammates. Like, you did kind of almost lose the game, right? You got a last second Hail Mary save. Yeah, that's great. I mean, you basically lost those, so that's sad. But at the same time, emotions are running high, and I can see where you get carried away, especially if you were getting face camped by, by a trickster or something. So I get it. I don't necessarily like it, but I get it, and I'm not that much in my feels about it, right? Of course, another point of contention I saw a lot was the use of abusive language in the postgame chat. And look, straight up, talking smack after winning in DBD is loser behavior. The game can be insanely broken on both sides, and honestly, even if it was perfectly balanced, you're still cringe. Imagine winning the World Cup, debatably the greatest achievement in all of athletics, and instead of celebrating, you run to the losing team so you can talk smack. That's lame, and it makes you look bad. Smack talk is absolutely fine during the game. I do it all the time when I'm playing. I've got no problem with it. You slam down, like let's turn around. If somebody slams a pallet down on me and they're like, haha, clown, you suck. Okay, great, they can do that. Because first off, I don't hear it. And secondly, it's just a game. It doesn't really matter. But I think that when the game ends, so too does the smack talk need to end, right? Once the trial's over, you guys aren't battling anymore. So what's the point, right? Again, act like you've been there before. That does bring us to an issue that here's Johnny799 brought up, saying that this game has too many sore winners. And yeah, no doubt. I've never seen a game where people get so full of themselves for winning, again, in a video game. And I mean, again, I do feel it's important to point out that I used to play Overwatch, For Honor, and Siege religiously. But this is a unique community, and people do need to get over themselves in this community. Escaping is not that hard. Getting a 4K is not that hard. Nobody's impressed, or at least nobody should be impressed. On a funnier note, CamoFlow8024 is upset that there aren't more pajamas and swimsuits in the game. Totally agree that DBD needs more cozy pajamas, but sadly, that swimsuit comment is getting you sent straight to horny jail. Sorry, I don't make the rules, I just enforce them. I really like this one from Bergnut, who says they hate being accused of hacking, and honestly, I couldn't disagree more. Like, I get why people don't like those types of accusations, obviously, but I look at it from a different angle. If somebody accuses me of hacking, I'm like, oh damn, I must have been really cooking that match. It's a cool feeling, and I do wish I ran into it more, because I love it, I'm all for it. Another one I disagreed with was this one from Angel 9th Rune, who said that they hate the Gideon Meat plant. As both a survivor and a killer, I love that map. The only time I hate it is if I'm playing against a nurse, a doctor, or a chess merchant on that one. And I mean, I guess also if I'm playing as the dredge on that one. Outside of those times, I think that map goes hard as hell. It's a great map, I really like it, and I've always been a little confused by why people hate it so much, but I do know a lot of people hate it. And by the way, maybe my opinion doesn't matter that much because I really liked Hawkins. So if you played on Hawkins, you understand why that means maybe I'm just a real weird sicko. But of course, if you do disagree with me, that is just a skill issue on your part. No, I'm just joking, but that segues me into the next point where user can't pronounce it, says they hate everything being called a skill issue. And this is a real thing too. Zoomers have taken over the discourse, and now anytime somebody has a complaint, it's a skill issue. It's either that, or like Kiwi Bird was doing earlier and saying that everybody who disagrees with you is, quote, crying. Like, no bro, it's not that deep. Sometimes people just have opinions, and they share them. It's crazy, I know, I'm shaking just thinking about it, but it does happen. Next up, we've got IDK Much, which, by the way, me neither, who doesn't like that certain achievements encourage unfun playstyles. And by the way, I want to extend this out and say that tomes do this too, and yeah, it can be frustrating. Ideally, achievements and archives would encourage daring, interesting, unique challenges, but more often than not, they tell people to play in a way that isn't all that fun for anybody involved. Most achievements come down to cheesing, grinding, or slugging, and that is a bummer. Speaking of slugging, let's talk about the 1v2. Minronis, I probably got that one wrong, mentioned that 1 killer versus 2 survivors is a miserable place to be in, and I generally agree. In those situations, I'd ideally like to see 1 survivor loop while the other just sits on gens, but as a killer, I'd say just hook the looper and let it go down to a hatch showdown, unless again you get one of those pesky achievements or archives and you just have to worry about that. But the game is generally over in those situations, so yeah, I say usually just let it end. Let it reach its natural conclusion. Don't drag it out to try to get the 4K, because again, we kind of talked about that in the last one. Like, yeah, you might be able to get some more points out of it, or you will be able to get more points out of it, but like ultimately, how many blood points are worth actual time from your life? Like, I don't know, man. It's just not that fun. Of course, sometimes those situations bring out the bad behavior not from the killer, but from the other survivor who, as pointed out by Beats4224, just hides around the map and waits for you to die. That's weak, that's cowardly, and I always hate to see it. And honestly, if I'm the killer and I'm chasing somebody and they're looping pretty well, and I realize, hey, it's been a hot minute since a gen popped, sometimes I'll break the chase and I'll go find the hider, because that one bothers me. I don't like it. I think you're on a team, play like it. Another thing I hate to see is trolls, which Sevo-chan, oh my goodness, I'm getting worse with these, pointed out as being uniquely frustrating. It's things like throwing pallets when not in chase, trapping players where they can't get out, purposefully blowing every skill check. These things are fine, by the way, if you're in a 4-man swift and you're just kind of messing with your buddies. But in public lobbies, you are an ass if you do them. Because it's like so many other things where it's cool to mess with your friends. By all means, throw when you're in a 4-man swift and you just want to see your buddies die. Like, that's funny. Nobody has a problem with that. But it's like so many things. You can mess with your friends, but don't harass strangers who are just trying to have a good time, right? Like that's lame. I feel like one of the better points brought up was Psychotic Idiotic, which is a cool name, who talked about the ridiculously long turnaround time that behavior has for fixing serious bugs. Overwatch is brought up as an example here, and I'll just say it. If it is current year and Overwatch is doing something better than you, it's time to reconsider some things. I do agree with this one though, it's a good point. For a studio the size of Behavior, it should not take so long to get serious issues ironed out, especially not when they are game-breaking in nature. This next one's kind of funny to me because in an ideal world we wouldn't have to deal with it, but because there are people who refuse to see things from the other side's perspective, here we are. So Lineas points out that they don't like killers who don't pressure gens and then complain about gen rushing. They also don't like survivors who heal directly under the hook and complain or get angry when the killer takes an easy second hook. Both of these are super relatable, they happen all the time. Obviously, gens can fly by for a number of reasons, and sometimes it does feel pretty bad, but in those cases, you should always consider your own strategy and your own gameplay before just going to this reflex of blaming something else. Maybe it was actually pretty much out of your hands, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe there's something you could have done well, or done better, I should say. And the same goes for the whole healing thing, where it's like, you can get mad and say, oh, the killer's sweaty, and yeah, they probably are, but at the same time, you made it too easy for them. You just hung out under the hook. And maybe you did it without For the People. You did it without We'll Make It. You did it without Desperate Measures. No One Left Behind. Any of that. You just thought you were going to get a regular heal against Sloppy Toppy and Coulrophobia and not pay the price for it. Like, you got to think about these things, right? Like, I can't be the only one. So yeah, again, this is one of those where there are times where it's not going to be your fault. But then there are absolutely times where it is your fault. And you should consider that before taking it out on some poor schmuck who just happens to be playing the game across from you. Brian Hillman, not Brian Pillman, Brian Hillman 5867 makes the incredibly base point that quitters ruin everything, and they definitely do. Whether you DC or decide to be an even bigger a-hole and purposefully die as soon as possible, which I just had that recently in a game and it was very frustrating, you're impacting the enjoyment of 4 other people, and honestly, it's a Joey Swole moment. You need to do better, right? It's so frustrating. I hate this argument of, if I'm not having fun, well, again, play single player. Just stop. Just act like you have played a team sport before. This is so frustrating. Lastly, let's put a nice bow on this one by highlighting a point made by the Emperor of Roma, Kaisare, who talks about being new to the game and already hating. Already, they're new. and they already hate the wars that this community wages against each other. These wars take on many forms, but the most common and least productive, by the way, is killers versus survivors. It's silly to act like both roles aren't absolutely necessary for the health of the game, and by constantly trashing one, you are really limiting your enjoyment of the game. This is not the world of sports, where you can't really be a fan of both the Red Sox and the Yankees, right? It's not that serious. People shouldn't hold themselves as killers or survivors in this unique thing where this is the concrete identity that they've chosen, because ideally you will play both roles from time to time. And if you don't play both roles, then you have no right to comment on how the other side plays because you have no idea what it's like to play that side. All I'm saying is that DBD it's an us versus them game during the matches, absolutely. But once you're out of the trial, there is only us, no them. That aspect has been removed once the trial ends. We're all just playing a game to have a good time, and sometimes it's good to take a step back and appreciate what you got here, because it's a cool game, and it could be a cooler community. We just gotta breathe a little. It's cheesy, I know, but it does need to be said. I'm tired of killers and survivors acting like they're not just two sides of the same coin, because they are. Still, I do hate to end the video on a note of actual discussion, so let's do one more we can all agree on. As mentioned by Boyensterev4770, can we all agree that the post-game chat filter is busted as hell and needs to be changed? When I can't say things like Dwight in a game featuring a main character named Dwight, you know there's a problem. It's funny, yes, but it's also very stupid and needs to be addressed why we have an M-rated game about murdering people for all of eternity, but they have what I'm going to assume is the Cocomelon filter. Like, what is happening here? It's crazy. I don't know. It makes me laugh if nothing else. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you to everyone who was featured in the video, and thank you to everyone who commented that was not featured in the video, because like I said, I did read through every comment, and again, I was impressed. I thought there was a lot of good discussion going on, and that was cool to see. If you enjoyed this, please consider maybe leaving me a sub, maybe leaving me a like, you know, do all that. And remember that I do stream on Twitch, not frequently, but it's a thing I do. Anyway, thanks for watching my video. Glad you made it to the end. Hope you're taking care of yourselves, and until next time, I have been Das Food. Bye, friends.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't wait.